Howdy, I'm Blaine Carter. I'm Oracle's developer advocate for open source, and today we're going to be looking at an open source project called Logger. It's a PL SQL logging utility, and you can find it here on GitHub at github.com/oraopensource/logger. In this video, we're looking at installing Logger. So first things first, let's jump over to the download section, open the releases folder. And when that comes up, we're going to download the latest version. Now, I've already downloaded and extracted the scripts, and so that would look like this when you've extracted them. So let's switch over to installation. Now, with installation, you have a couple different options. You can either install it into an existing schema, or if you're concerned about collisions or anything like that, you can create a new schema and install it over there, and then you would just create the synonyms to point back. We're going to go with the second option. So let's scroll down to installing into a new schema. Now what we're going to do is we're going to run the create user script as sys. So we'll connect to our database as sys with the, of course, with the DBA privileges, and we're going to run this script. It's going to ask us for a couple pieces of data, and then it will create the user and then grant it some permissions. Now read the permissions, make sure you're comfortable with everything, and if you or your DBA is not comfortable with all of the permissions given, there's a section lower here that will show you how to restrict access so you can still get the functionality but not have as many permissions granted. All right, so let's go ahead and run the script. We're going to call it DD Logger. And take the default users table space, the default temp table space, and give it a password. And there we go. We have created the Logger user. So let's switch over to the Logger user. And we're going to look at the install script. So if you were installing into an existing schema, you would come to this step first and install just run the install into existing schema. Now we have an existing schema. We're going to go ahead and run this script. Now there's a lot of stuff in here, so we're not going to go through all of it, but we will run it and see what happens. We're going to connect as the user. Now it's going to have a lot of stuff here, and don't be worried about those errors. I'm not quite sure why they pop up, but they seem to have no effect on the installation when we are all done. Just about there, and we are complete. All right, so once it's installed, we need to do a couple things. So first of all, since we installed it into its own schema, we need to grant access to the schema we want to use it from. So we're going to run grant logger to user, which is you're going to find in the scripts folder here. And this just grants the permissions needed for the user who's going to use the script. So let's run that, and it's going to ask us for what that user is, and of course we need to be connected as logger. And that user would be just DD, and there we go. It's all granted. Now we need to log into the script that is going to be using Logger, and that's the DD schema that we just granted the permissions to. And in this schema, we're going to create some synonyms for those items that we need to use. So we'll run the script. Now this is asking for the name of the schema that owns the Logger objects. And there we go. That is all good. So now let's go ahead and validate that the installation was successful. All right, now connected as our DD user, which is the user that owns the application, not the user that owns Logger, we are going to first check that Logger was installed, and then we can see it. So from here you can see that there are two logs that come with the installation. The first one is saying that the log level was set to debug, and you can see the timestamp of when that happened and the other relevant information. And you'll see the next thing was a log that is actually at the permanent level, and this was saying that Logger version 3.1.1 was installed. Once again with the timestamps and relevant information over to the side there. So speaking of log levels, we'll test out the functions for logging logs, and we're going to start with a debug log, which should be log level 16, followed by an information log, which would be log level 8, a warning log, which would be log level 4, and an error log, which is log level 2. So let's go ahead and run those and see how they went. From there, you can see that the first one that went in was log level 16, which was the debug log. It said, I'm a debug log. Log level 8 for the info, I'm an info log. 4 for the warning, I'm a warning log. And 2 for the error, I'm an error log. So with that, you can see that Logger has been installed and everything seems to be working correctly. And that's how you install Logger. I hope this video has been useful to you. If so, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.